The first sign we had that Matthew had his own ideas about his life was when he showed up 2 weeks late for his own delivery. We should have realized then that our parental journey would find paths we did not seek and wish not to walk. But life is a series of lessons that you are forced to learn, you are forced to keep experiencing until you learn them. Matt's desire to forge his own path has been one of those lessons that took Dave and I years to learn. A conventional early education turned our normally happy child into an angry, withdrawn one. Matt's behavior was unpredictable, and we spent endless days worrying about him. Realizing this was more than just a normal aversion to the mores of school, we sought out a psychiatrist. The diagnosis? Major depressive disorder. Matt was 9. Utterly shattered, Dave and I had to figure out how to best help our profoundly suffering boy. Since school was a major factor in his depression, we were forced to cede some control over what is fundamentally a routine exercise for most kids. Instead of assuming he'd go through the public school system and to college, we began to make the next right decision. Homebound instruction, IEPs, special services school for a year, and then back in district. It was in 7th grade that Matt announced he would never be going back to middle school. You would have thought after 5 years of this roller coaster that Dave and I would have been used to it. But really, the older Matt got, the harder it was to not feel adrift. What prospects did a 7th grade dropout have? What were his chances of success if I homeschooled him, knowing my heart wasn't in it? And really, would he even do any work at home? What was more important, his mental health or learning algebra? Why was it so hard for him to conform? Even though Dave and I had made what seemed like brave parenting decisions up to that point, how could we condone dropping out of the education process? How much longer could we stand the looks, the sideways glances of parents in our high-achieving school district as we let our wayward child forge his own path? Would we ever feel okay again? Was total and complete surrender the answer? Apparently it was. We found PLC, not a school, no requirements, no expectations, but rather a community. After 5 years of anxiety and depression, it was not surprising that Matt slept through most of that first year. He took a few classes, spent time in the woods, played Minecraft on his laptop, and Dave and I fell into a pattern of hope and despair. We were hopeful that Matt was where he needed to be, yet we despaired because we continued to focus on his future and how he didn't really have one. We encouraged his outdoor pursuits, figuring he could make a life of teaching others in the outdoors. Whatever Matt's interests were at the time, we tried to find a way to pour them in concrete so we had something to hold on to. But Matt was simply living day to day and doing each day what he desired to be doing that day. In what would have been 9th grade with a year of sleep under his belt, we encouraged a healthy Matt to take more classes, to think about his future and what he needed to do to get into college. Just understand the requirements Dave and I preached so that you don't wake up 2 years from now regretting your lost time. Lost time. We still hadn't grasped the fact that none of it was lost time. That living the life he wanted to be living was what mattered, and that major transformations were taking place if we could just open up our eyes to them. Joel and Allison understood this, even as they listened to and addressed our concerns. Little emphasis did we put on the fact that all the while he was at PLC, he was being accepted for who he was and what he wanted to be doing. For probably the first time in his life, he felt like other people saw him as the fully realized person he had always seen in himself. And it was this unconditional love that allowed himself to open up to the experiences he once shunned. His ability to communicate effectively with adults who were strangers to him, his ability to advocate for himself and his needs, his maturity and strength of character are in no small measure attributed directly to the staff, students, and community of PLC. We were still caught up in how he was going to survive in the world without truly recognizing he had done more to survive than any of us. So caught up were we that when Matt announced he wanted to go back to high school, we were stunned. Why, we asked. The answer? Because although I feel I am self-directed, I am not sure I am so self-directed that I will do what's necessary for me to meet my future goals. All that worry, all those years. What we didn't realize is that instead of assuming what his goals were, he first had to determine them. And once he had them, no matter if they matched our idea of what they should be, he would find a way to achieve them, just as he always had. PLC's steadfast mission is for teens to live the life they want to be living, not in the future, but in the present. And PLC understands that sometimes means leaving, but not really leaving the community, because the support from the PLC staff has been unwavering, even after his departure. From helping him with the school transcript, to checking in to see how he's doing, to welcoming him back to PLC when his school is off, they have continued to have a vested interest in his life. We are eternally grateful to have found PLC and to consider them family. You might be surprised if I were to tell you that Matt picked up in school where he left off. He didn't have time to review math facts or catch up on test-taking skills or read the classics. He didn't need to. Matt's success in returning to high school is simple. It was his choice. He sees high school as a means to an end. Does he love it? No. There are too many inane regulations for his liking. But he is inspired, and he's healthy, and he's doing great academically. And as much as he can, he's forging his own path there. He's found a way to graduate in 3 years. It's a house of cards, and if it fails, Matt will do what he's always done: adapt, adjust, and more than likely find an even better way of reaching his goal. At a recent school meeting, the season's guidance counselor said, I don't know. I've never encountered that before. With an inward smile, earned from years of living through that feeling, I thought, you've never encountered Matt before, but you'll be better for having done so. I know I am.